We all have a figurative gold medal that we're trying to win. And the characteristics and qualities and skills and tools that we use to get to that point, those are the things that we really need to focus on.
Hello there, it's me, Steve Mellor, and welcome in to Growth Ready, the podcast that allows high performers to reveal the reality behind what it means to ready yourself for growth, the personal and professional challenges along the growth journey, while also allowing the high-performance executive coach in me to satisfy his curiosity toward what drives optimal performance. On this episode, we welcome in Paralympic athlete and keynote speaker Lex Gillette, who understands the importance of creating the type of trust, communication, and feedback with those around us to ensure that when it comes to achieving true growth, we better be ready to invest in these kind of qualities to set us up for success. And welcome into the most recent installment of Growth Ready. I am delighted to be welcoming back to the show a guest from when we were once called Career Competitor, who is coming to the show for the first time in our newest format. And Lex Gillette joins us, and I'm so excited, Lex, to have an opportunity not to simply check in and just catch up with someone who originally I just enjoyed having a conversation with so much, but I had this short list of folks that I've had on the show before that I was itching to know, hey, if I were to ask you the question that I now ask everybody, what might your response to that be? And so here we are, Lex, with this opportunity for me to ask you what I'm now asking everybody. So what does it mean to you to be growth ready?
Ooh, well, first of all, just great to be back and having another conversation. And I would say being growth ready means that I would suggest being flexible and open-minded. I think growth requires, you have to be open-minded. You have to be in this space where, you're pliable and you are able to be, sharpened and crafted and shaped. Because if you're not, it just makes it very, very difficult. If you're very, hard in your heart and not really willing to think about things differently or have a different perspective, it just makes it really difficult to realize that growth and development.
It's a really interesting perspective because it almost acknowledges that there's a preparation component of when growth opportunities, so to speak, come your way, that you need that flexibility, that open-mindedness to actually receive them, as opposed to like running towards them, which we do in specific ways. But what I'm hearing from you, man, in that answer is that, hey, we actually need to work on how we receive the opportunity as much as we almost run towards it. Am I getting that right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. For sure. And I just look at it from my perspective as someone who's blind. Like I have to be open-minded. I have to be flexible because, you just never know. When I enter into society, it's a totally different world. So I'm trying to figure out, all right, well, do I need to go here? Do I need to go there? Do I need to, take a step back? Do I need to, it's just so many different things that are running in my mind that helps me to get to, whatever that destination is, which essentially is that path of growth.
Yeah, so I would love to now, the one thing I refuse to do when I have previous guests on is have conversations that we've already had, because it's like, hey, we're going to have the links to when you were here previously, and people can go back and get the background of your story. I was actually just really delighted to even highlight some of it in my book as well. And, for me, so much of what we discussed last time certainly would be relevant to bring up in any episode of the show. But what I really want to do here, man, is talk about what you're experiencing in the right now. Like what does growth in your world today look like? Where are you pursuing growth at the moment? When you look at just life as a whole, what are sort of the areas that you're focused on?
I would say, from a professional standpoint, still in the speaker space, so going around and doing the talks and things like that. But really working on developing a program where I can spend a bit more time either one-on-one or in small groups, and taking what I've been able to do in my career as a track and field athlete who is blind, and taking folks through that day in the life, if you will. So if you were to be hanging out with me here in San Diego right now, we would go to formerly the Olympic Training Center. Now we call it the Chula Vista Elite Athlete Training Center. And we would spend a couple hours, sometimes a half day, depending upon the group and their schedule, but literally giving you the opportunity to put the blindfold on that I wear when I'm competing.
Wow.
And taking groups through, say, a 30-meter sprint, talking to them about that relationship between the athlete and the sighted guide. And there's just so many different parallels to what we do on a daily basis as athletes and what professionals are doing in the office on a day-to-day basis. So thinking about, you put that blindfold on, I mean, you're walking around like, oh my gosh, like the trust factor is just, it's uncanny. So talking about trust, talking about communication, and not only just us verbally speaking, but when I'm running with my guide, sometimes it's just, little nuances and cues from a physical standpoint that we're able to, okay, like he gave me a little, he gave me a little push on my elbow. So that lets me know I need to shift to the left a little bit as we're running. The feedback aspect, he's talking to me, he's giving me these ideas and things that I can use to help navigate successfully from the start line to the finish line. And so being able to bring groups out here and go much farther in depth in those conversations is really huge, because to your point, I mean, the focus of this conversation, growth ready, it just helps people to be able to acquire a different type of perspective and take some practical tips and things from that time together to be able to hopefully help them in their own personal and professional journeys.
Yeah. You nailed it with that word perspective. What you're describing here, by the way, like, sign me up. Like this is, I'm thinking of so many of my own clients right now, and I'm like, good gracious. Like if there is an experience that you can provide an individual that is going to truly shift their perspective, likely for the rest of their life, in a way to where they find an appreciation for what you're saying, trust, communication, feedback in ways unlike ever before, what it might be like to spend just an hour in your shoes. Like, never mind a day, never mind a week, just 1 hour, just 30 minutes, whatever it may be, and the way you talk about the relationship with the individual that's running with you, I think that is, we have relationships like that in our lives. We're just not putting the kind of stakes and significance on them to the way in which, obviously, the details and the intensity with which your relationship in that moment matters, because that is you're not running slow. Like if anyone's ever watched this stuff, like you're running fast. You're certainly running faster than I can run. And so for me, it's like, you got to have someone who's in shape. You got to have someone who's got the ability to communicate under pressure, and to your point, we are trying to get you from point A to point B as successfully as possible. So it's not just about refining trust, communication, feedback. It's doing it by acknowledging that we're doing it at the greatest of stakes as well, right?
Yes. And now we were talking about it just now in the context of being on the track, running together in a Paralympic race. You have an athlete who is designated one lane. Your guide is designated the lane that is directly next to you, so that you are, you're running side by side. You're running in sync. Now shift over to when we transition to another portion of the program, we talk about the jumping aspect, long jump, field events, where I don't ask the participants to jump by any means, because we definitely thinking about safety. However, the biggest piece to it is in the long jump, the guide or caller, as we identify them, the caller stands at the takeoff board and they're clapping and giving you those audible cues. So for anybody who's competed in track and field, you know that in the field events, you have a certain number of strides that you take to get from where you start to where you need to take off from. And from there you leap or, throw the javelin or whatever it is. And, but in the Paralympics, your caller, they cannot move. So now the relationship changes a little bit because they're not beside you, they're in front of you or wherever you have them positioned. That's your preference. And they are giving you cues, verbal cues that you're having to use to navigate to that destination. And so it just totally changes it a lot. And when I talk to participants, I'm like, which one did you think was a little more easier? And excuse my grammar there, my mom would be mad, but which one would you think is easier?
Right.
And they always say running on the track and running beside the person because they are physically connected. However, when you're on the long jump runway or triple jump or whatever it is, you're having to use those calls in a way and listen and run as fast as you can towards this person. And on the opposite side, when you think about the caller, you're having to provide these cues and not only just like being consistent in those cues, because once they stop providing sound, I don't know where to go. The runner doesn't know where to navigate.
Right. You're lost.
When you
You're
think
lost
about
in that moment.
Yeah. So when we think about all of these things, the communication, the feedback, all of this stuff, like it has to be consistent.
I love that. And that is, you're taking a level of dependency to like a whole nother level as well. Like that's something I'm hearing as well. It's like we have relationships in our lives, and what's funny is I'm immediately thinking of my wife and my kids, and I'm like, okay, I got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. They are dependent on what my wife and I are doing for them at this point in life, no doubt. However, my hope is that through that dependency, they are building higher levels of autonomy, higher levels of awareness, because I don't want to be doing the things I'm doing for them at 4 and 6, by the time they get to 15, 16, 17. However, your situation is so different. Your circumstances aren't changing from one day to the next. And so that level of dependency is an absolute extreme at all times. At all times. And so, like, again, it makes me think straight away of just like, what relationships do I have in my life that could benefit from us almost leveling up that understanding of the dependency that we should have for one another, depending on, the expectations for the outcome. Like, is it okay for us to build a level of a relationship where we literally are relying on the other one to bring the best out of us? Because that's what it comes down to, Lex. It's like you're looking for the ideal outcome, the perfect jump, the ideal run, to execute that step count perfectly. And so, again, it makes me immediately want to challenge every listener right now is like, whatever those goals that you may have in your life currently, respectively, who might those one or two people be that you need to start depending more on to get you to that level of excellence that you obviously, Lex, you're relying on it every day in practice, every competition that you go to, right?
That is so true. And you made a really good point because, as a parent as well, at 15, 16 years old, the expectation is that they'll be able to go out and, not be as dependent. And so for me, being in the sport for a significant amount of time, what is interesting is that, I have like 20 plus years now in track and field. And just as much as I depend on my guide and my caller, he now depends on me because, again, wanting to grow, to excel, and to become better. That should be the goal for all of us in whatever it is that we do. And that's not to say that what we're doing currently is, might not, I wouldn't say that it's bad by any means, but the goal should always be to become better, right?
Exactly.
So now that I put these additional years in, things are changing. They've evolved. Competitors are, nipping at your heels and things like that. So my guide depends on me to let him know, hey, what are you feeling? Like, how does your technique feel when you're running down the track? How does my voice sound? Do I need to reposition myself? What can I do to help you do your job better? And so it becomes this like amazing relationship where in the beginning where I was I was a lot more not as confident, not as, maybe open-minded. Now you see that in order for us to really excel and to excel as a tandem, as a team, I have to provide things, or rather, he depends on me as well, and I need to be able to provide that feedback and information so that we can rise together.
Yeah, yeah, and that you taking it to that next level of at the outset of the relationship, there you are the one depending, and then over time your guide starts to depend on you more. I think that is such a beautiful example of what can come from work where we invest in trust and communication and feedback. Like, again, feedback. I love that you said feedback. I wasn't expecting you to say it. And then the moment you said it, I was like, yes, feedback, of course. Because for me, feedback's one of those things where people actually refrain from giving it because they're scared it's going to hurt the relationship, where everything you're saying is the complete opposite. You're strengthening the relationship through the feedback. And I have to assume that feedback over time, you've just been able to dial in precisely like how to give it, when to give it, and for me, that's when feedback becomes its most powerful, when you sort of create that almost parallel between one another, where now's the right time to give feedback, now isn't the right time to give feedback.
Yes, exactly. You've been a coach and still are.
That's right. That's right. You're singing from my hymn sheet, brother. And I love that when we think about how you answered the first question too around growth ready, like that flexibility, that open-mindedness. Again, when you first came on the show, the story that stayed with me that will and remains not only something that I share with others, but an example to me now as a parent, is the story you shared about your mom and the way she responded to you as you were developing your disability with blindness. And it was just the most incredible story for me. And just to really capture it short and sweet here, is that the takeaway for me was that this was a woman that wasn't going to allow you to use this as a limitation. She wanted you to see that you can still step up in this world and be what you want to be and do what you want to do. Like, this was not going to hold you back from being the best version of you that you possibly could be. And am I getting that right? Would you say, am I capturing that right?
You are, absolutely.
Yeah. And so for me, like I took that lesson not only to share with others, but now as a parent, I think, my goodness, like I want to make sure that any message I give to my own child is the same that your mom was giving you in such difficult circumstances. But where I was going with this, Lex, is that when you look at where you are today, how are you still relying on those same lessons that your mom taught you all those years ago when you first developed the disability? Like, when you think about the growth that you're now pursuing, whether it be on the speaking circuit, whether it be with some of these ideas with workshops and working with others, as you still continue to pursue the level of athletics that you're pursuing, like, how are you still relying on those same lessons from way back when?
I had a conversation recently with someone, and the comment was made, well, we live in a sighted world, blase, blase, blah. And I was thinking about it, and I said, well, you know what? I would almost challenge that, because I feel like we really live in a world that's blind. And our goal is to go out here in the world, because we all have our experiences, our backgrounds. We know what we know. But the pursuit should be to learn as much as possible. So there's so many things that we don't know, which essentially I equate that to, all right, this is my opportunity to teach you to see your potential, to see what's possible. So circling back to your question around the things that, my mom helped me to leverage, I still continue to use those things and to build on those things, because I know that in some way, some capacity, some way, shape, or form, I am opening another person's eyes and their minds to what it is that they can do and what it is that they can help others to achieve. And that just really that lights my fire, because I
Hmm.
don't like, when I wake up every morning, I don't even think about not being able to have eyesight or use
Hmm.
eyesight. I'm just thinking about, all right, well, like, what kind of positive change can I have today? Who's like, what kind of perspective can I provide to somebody so that they can get 1% better? And it just circles back to all of those things that my mom helped me to understand and learn as a child, in addition to the teachers and counselors and friends and all of these other these host of people who have helped me to become who I am.
Hmm. Yeah, I like how you brought us to the idea of the 1%. It's like that 1% mindset of, and again, something as we've reframed this show a little bit. When you first came on, I think I was probably guilty of trying to almost push people towards this idea of, be excellent, achieve excellence, etc. And then I kind of had a little bit of a humbling process through as I grew my business. And I said, well, who are you to tell people like that excellence is the standard they should be? And what I kind of started to realize is that it's actually much more of a subjective state. Like excellence is, hey, in your world right now, whatever's going on, there is a way for you to aspire to be excellent that when you look from the outside world looking in, maybe they would question if that's excellence. But
Yes.
at the end of the day, if excellence subjectively means to you what it needs to bring you into a mindset, now coming back to your point of, hey, if I'm aspiring to be 1% better in some capacity in one of these many lanes in my life each and every day, I'm finding a reason to get up. I'm finding a reason to do this thing. I'm finding a reason to reach out, to connect, to make time for people, all these kind of stuff. And I think that is what I really appreciate about what you're saying there is that, and I before I go any further, I want to come back to your initial insight around the world being blind. I would love for you just to give me a bit more perspective on that though first. Like just when you say it like that, can you maybe elaborate a little bit more on just specifically what do you mean by that?
Yeah. And first of all, certainly don't want to don't want to give the impression that like I'm offending anybody by any means, but yeah, like we're all like each day I just feel like we should be on a learning journey,
Mm.
a growing journey. In order for us to grow, we have to learn, right?
Yeah.
And there are things that we just don't know. And so uh when I say blind, or not being able to see, it really boils down to like seeing is understanding.
Hmm.
And so it's just providing understanding for other people. Um yeah, period, stop. It's just
Yeah.
providing understanding for, other people, which hopefully they'll be able to leverage that understanding to catapult into different spaces and places in their life.
100%. And I love that I'm glad now that I asked you to provide a little bit more context, because just capturing that as seeing is understanding. I know a lot of the work that you do today and have been doing for a while now is around leadership. And for me, the greatest leadership role I think we all play every day is leading ourselves. And
Yeah.
so when we look at it that way, is this idea of, okay, what if as a leader I just simply aspire to better understand what's going on around me?
Yeah.
Again, there's high political climates right now. It feels like everything's high right now. Everything's high status, high pressure, high, madness, whatever you want to call it. And it's really easy to step into, and when I speak about the notion of assumption. Like typically, if we step in with assumption, we're already refraining from the desire to understand. And
Yeah.
so like with what you're saying here, the blindness comes from the assumption. The blindness comes from just like jumping in and immediately throwing in your 2 cents without taking just that moment. And again, this is where we come full circle with what we were just talking about. Are you willing to just say, hey, can I communicate a little bit more effectively? Can I actually get the information, get the feedback that I need to actually now bring in an insight that shows that I'm looking, as opposed to just blindly stepping into this thing, right?
Yeah. And the example that you gave around excellence
Mm.
and how we define excellence. And so many people might look at my situation or other athletes and they see us going to these major competitions and standing on the podium and winning gold medals, and they say, oh my gosh, that's amazing, that's excellence.
Mhm.
When in actuality, at the same time, it's like, and I certainly believe, yeah, like that is excellence, yes. However, at the same time, what it took for me to get to this point was, rolling out of bed each morning when I didn't want to.
Mhm.
It took, staying at the track a little longer to work on this technique or that technique, or, doing a little more, off the field training as it relates to like, video and things like that, or talking to your coach. Like those are seemingly, small things that people overlook sometimes. And quite frankly, in our country, you usually just see like the triumph,
Mm.
and you seldom get to see the full image of the journey that it took to get to that point. And I think that is where we really need to put a lot of focus, because yeah, I think a lot of people see the gold medals and all of the trophies and things like that, and again, play on words, they get blinded by that fact that, listen, we all have a figurative gold medal that we're trying to win.
Right.
And the characteristics and qualities and skills and tools that we use to get to that point, those are the things that we really need to focus on. Those are the things that I want to bring into focus for people to truly see, because whether you want to be an athlete, a doctor, a scientist, a great teacher, those are the things that you really need in order to go out here and achieve whatever that excellence looks like for you.
Mhm. Yeah, the figurative gold medal, man. Like I couldn't agree more. And again, when you talk about some of the humility that I've received in the last few years, whether it be through business ownership, parenting, whatever it is, man. Some days my figurative gold medal is don't forget something. Like
Yes.
remember all of it. Remember it all. Don't forget it. Don't drop the ball. Don't leave a child waiting at somewhere where
Yep.
you're supposed to pick them up. All this kind of stuff, And like, and again, when we look at life that way, man, like we suddenly the sometimes getting out of bed or whatever it may be, it doesn't seem like the mountain to climb that it could do if we're comparing an action like, hey, getting out of bed before our alarm or a little bit earlier than we typically would. We don't look at that action now as so significant, or not significant. We don't look at it as something that is so massive, because we're not comparing it to some outrageous outcome. We're just saying, like, maybe the goal today, because I'm not feeling it. And trust me, I've been the athlete, I've been the coach, you are the athlete. It's like, there are so many more days where you're not feeling it than you are feeling it. And to your point, we don't discuss that enough, especially when it comes to elite level sport.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
I want you to talk more about the journey now. How do you stay in that mindset of, hey, this is the journey. I'm not going to, because again, you're always working in seasons, you're always working in cycles as an athlete. It's so easy to suddenly get distracted by that next major competition that's coming up, or that, maybe you start thinking too much about that previous competition that didn't go the way you wanted, and you start focusing on things that maybe go against a process that's good for you, whatever it may be. How does Lex Gillette stay in his journey and not get distracted by other things?
I think just knowing that, it takes time. And so these things that we want to say achieve in life, when you think about them in their just in the pure form of a medal, a competition, that can be very daunting.
Mm-hmm.
And we're certainly seeing a lot of information now around mental health, and how that affects us, and um how that can affect the decisions that we make. And so I literally am just like, all right, listen, this is a 4-year journey.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do everything to get on this podium in one day. I have to literally break this down into smaller chunks, smaller pieces, smaller steps, so that we can get to the point of potentially going to a competition and getting on that podium. So a lot of it is, you sit down with your coach and you break down the journey. You talk about what we're going to do for this 4-week cycle or that 4-week cycle. All right, these 4 weeks, we're purely just going to focus on speed. So when you come out in here on Monday, this is what we're going to do. The first 45 minutes, you're going to warm up. The next 30 minutes, you're going to do A, B, C, and D. Then we're going to cool down. You're going to go grab a smoothie, get some lunch, take your little break. Then we're going to head to the weight room. We're going to work on squats. We're going to work on power cleans. We're going to work on core. And in that moment, I am just in that moment working on those things. So if I'm doing a squat workout, for example, that is my competition for the day. I'm purely present and focused on that, listening to my strength and conditioning coach, trying to ensure that I am doing the things that he's telling me to do and making sure that I do them well. So that when I leave from training and I go home and I get my dinner and I'm sitting on my couch, I can say to myself, you know what, I won the day. And then when I lay my head down at bed at night and kiss the fam and pray and all this all of these other things, when I wake up the next morning, we circle back to the beginning and we say, hey, this is another opportunity to essentially make a deposit in the bank. Yeah. And next thing you know, I mean, when you say focus like that, you eventually get to that fourth year. And, for those who are fortunate, get an opportunity to get on that podium. So a long story short, it's just understanding that, you decide your future the day that you wake up, the decisions that you make in that day. You don't decide your future tomorrow because tomorrow isn't promised. So what you do today, that creates your future.
I love it, man. It's the idea of the daily competition is it's hard to get people to practice, but it's so effective. And again, I think it's because we come from sports. I think it's easier for us to sort of grapple and get our heads around this notion more than it is for those that maybe don't have that background. And I say it with clients all the time that it's like, hey, if we can just look at it as a scoreboard every single day, and there's only 1 point up for grabs every single day, and it's between you and the day. That's it. They're the only two competitors that show up every single day. And can you get it? Can you get the score? Can you come out on top? And to be honest, to start with, if you can win over 7 days, 4-3, start there. There. Like don't look at it as, hey, I have to be perfect, right?
And even outside of like the sport context, I think back to when I first lost my sight. Yeah. And I had to transition from once being able to physically see the world to now not being able to see it. So being able to do something as simple as walk by myself safely and successfully, having someone to teach me how to use a cane. I never wanted to use a cane. So some of those days it was just purely like, all right, Lex, I had my mom and, so many people in my ear telling me, listen, you need to use this. Yeah. And at that time, you don't really see how impactful it is. But now looking back on those times where I told myself, all right, well, let me just take this out and use it and see what it might be able to do for me. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh, I'm able to step onto a curb. I'm able to walk upstairs. I'm able to avoid chairs and poles and understand how to walk around my school. And so it was, once just learning my neighborhood, learning the landscape of my school, the floor plan and things like that. But then that transforms into learning how to navigate my community, my state, learning how to navigate airports, learning how to navigate, albeit I'm usually with teammates or, business partners or, people like that when I'm traveling abroad. But yeah, I can walk around the UK. I can walk around Australia. So, similar, same context, but, different example. And that in my mind is, golly, that's probably more impactful than sport because sport has an expiration. Me navigating the world, that won't stop until, I take my last.
Right. And I had a humbling experience myself in the last few weeks as we speak. I had a hip scope for a torn labrum about 2 months ago. And for me, that was the first major surgery I'd had away from being an athlete. So
Yeah.
I try to consider myself an athlete still, you know what I mean? But with no expectations for time of recovery and all this kind of stuff. And for me, and again, it's the first time I had a major surgery with 2 kids at home and a wife and all this kind of stuff. And you suddenly quite quickly just go, hey, like whatever you can do better today than you did yesterday, you kind of have to live with that, Steve. Like you can't expect more. You can't expect to accelerate this process. You can't expect to just switch off life and just make everything about your rehab and nothing else. Like, because life is going to go on. When you can start to contribute more around the house, you're going to be expected to contribute around the house. And so like that, it's just, you learn how to just compartmentalize in ways unlike ever before and just say, what is the win? What's the win that I'm getting today?
Yeah.
And my hope is that we can get people to shift that perspective without any adversity. They don't need the moment where they have to have life kind of hit them around the head and let them know. I think we can all learn that lesson a little bit more effectively, right?
For sure.
Dude, listen, I have to assume, we're 2025 right now, 2028, we've got a California Olympic Games. So is that the goal right now, the next 3 years? Is that what we're focusing on?
That is the goal. I have been a part of so many games where there has been an athlete who is a hometown, hero. Just the fact that he even made the games for their country.
Right.
And to be able to have that opportunity to be an American athlete competing on home soil, having all of your fellow countrymen in the crowd, that is going to be absolutely mind-boggling.
I'm getting goosebumps for you, man. Like it's not even me doing it, but I mean the fact you're based in San Diego. Go ahead.
I say competing in the Coliseum, like us,
yeah, it's real.
Wow.
It's real. And for me, it's like there you are based in San Diego. The idea of you just like hopping on the interstate and driving up to an Paralympic Games is hilarious to me.
Yes.
But that's what it's about, man. That's what the Olympic and the Paralympic story is all about. It's about, again, it's such a small percentage of people that just simply go to Olympic Games, and then that percentage of people that somehow position themselves to attend an Olympic Games as a competitor in their home country, and then go one step even further. And suddenly now, in this case, it could be the state that you actually are based in. Like it's absolutely, the percentages get really small at a certain point. And so I have to imagine that in itself, man, is just the ultimate motivation for you right now.
Yes. Yeah. It is definitely, that is a major motivating factor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm so excited to continue following and watching your journey, man. And again, I'm so excited to have had the chance just to simply bring you back on. And I knew that, just some of the insights you would provide just based on our initial conversation, that in itself would have been, we could have just replayed that and been like, hey, now it's a growth ready episode, and people would have taken a ton away. But for me to look down at my notes and just be like, man, I filled another page of notes talking with Lex for a second time. And so for me, it's awesome to hear from you, to be able to check in and just see what's going on. But at the same time, I want to make sure that before I let you go, you've referenced a couple things that you're working on right now. You have your book as well, No Need for Sight, When You Have a Vision. Tell folks a little bit more about the book, and then also just where we can learn more and find out more about you, brother.
Yep. No Need for Sight, When You Have a Vision. What blindness can teach us about risk and leadership is a piece of literature where I really took a lot of stories that I've told in the past and some new ones, and really trying my best to break those down in a way where I could, speak to the reader and let them know all of the things that basically we've been talking about today. How can you leverage these things to grow and to, be a better version of yourself tomorrow, and taking the version of yourself that you see in your mind, and I hope that it's a positive one, but seeing that and understanding what tools that you can implement to be able to realize that person in physical form in reality. So, the book has been doing pretty good, and we are actually I finished up the manuscript a few months ago for the the workbook, which doesn't have to accompany No Need for Sight when you have a vision. It can be standalone,
Yeah.
but it definitely does nicely accompany the book. So that'll definitely be something that when I have groups and folks come out, when we sit down and have our debrief after, participating in the activities, that will give folks the ability to, write down and, kind of, debrief and work with their teams to put onto paper what it is that they want for themselves and for their families, for their companies. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that as well.
Awesome.
My next goal after that is to, try to do a children's book. And I'm take the word try. I'm going to do a children's book at some point here in the near future. And the answer to your last question, you can find me all over the place. LexGillette.com, LEXGILLETTE.com. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, all of these places. So, certainly connect, send me a message, comment on things. I try to stay pretty active up there. So, yeah.
Well, most importantly, you were on Growth Ready podcast, and I am so appreciative, man, of the time. I'm so thankful that.
One more thing, though.
What? Go ahead. Shoot. Go.
We had one interview before.
We
got this one. In these next 3 years before LA, we have to figure out some way that you can come here to San Diego and we have a conversation. That third time's a charm.
I am in.
Yeah.
I'm so in, because I already am just like, how can I spend more time with Lex? How can I collaborate with Lex? There has to be a way to do it. And I think
we'll put on you.
That's right. And I want to do that too, man. I want to truly get that experience because that the whole idea, is pretty awesome. Maybe I'm going to speak into existence, an Olympic/Paralympic themed little tour that I do in 2028 for leading up to the games, and I'll just do some pods and stuff like that. So I'm going to speak that into existence right now. But for now, Lex Gillette, brother, I'm just so thankful for the time. Thank you for letting me know that you have practice right after this to keep me honest, to make sure we get out on time. I would have absolutely killed my former coach self if I'd allowed you to go long here. So, brother, this has been absolutely wonderful, and best of luck with everything moving forwards.
I appreciate it. Likewise.
And my thanks again to Lex for joining us on this episode. And I'm so glad that I asked him to come back. I really am. You could probably pick up on the fact that I could talk to Lex for hours. So much like-mindedness in how we look at the world, how we look at the work we do. And if it were not for him just being this really disciplined and invested athlete who has to be on time and on to the next thing, we'd probably still be talking right now. But the one part of this that I really want to hone in on is when Lex made that statement of the world is blind. And hey, if you're still listening to the episode at this point, I appreciate it. And I want to just get to the heart of something that is so important. The fact of the matter is, we all can do a better job of better understanding a situation. Even if you're someone that considers themselves self-aware, willing to understand, willing to take the time to ask questions, I get it. I do that all the time. But even still, I am guilty of stepping in too soon, sharing my insights too soon because I don't have a good enough understanding. The more we can individually own the problem that this is creating, the more we can all be part of the collective solution. I really hope you hear me loud and clear when I say that. Take the time to ask the extra question. Take the time to pause. Take the time to think. Try to see it from the other person's or the perspective of another, just for a moment. And it's going to help you step in with greater understanding and be of greater value, greater impact, and be met by someone in a certain situation that is going to better listen to you because you took the time to better understand. It is such a valuable practice. It is something we can all do better. And over time, through podcasts like Growth Ready, I hope we can be part of the solution when it comes to equipping ourselves with the type of knowledge and understanding we need to be of greater value and to be of greater impact. So hear me when I say that we are all, even the most self-aware and most disciplined, we are all part of the problem that is the blindness when it comes to understanding the world, understanding situations. And we all could do a better job of just simply intentionally being part of the solution and going to get greater understanding. So I really do appreciate that very valuable, very significant, very relevant, especially in the middle of 2025, an incredibly relevant insight courtesy of Lex. So much more value from our conversation, which I'm sure you can agree. But in the meantime, folks, make sure you're subscribing, make sure you're sharing episodes like this with folks that you know can stand to benefit from this kind of content, and make sure you're leaving us a review. The 5th star is really the only star you need to consider, whether it's Spotify or Apple. We do believe that we're worth it. And as always, best of luck in anything and everything that you've got going on in your world, and I look forward to doing this again with you very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Growth Ready. If you liked what you heard and are feeling ready to grow, be sure to leave a 5-star rating, subscribe to the show, and share the episode with someone you know is ready to fuel their growth journey today. We love our community, so don't hesitate to reach out to us at podcast@growthready.com. And until next time, we are Growth Ready, and you will be too.